If you know me, you probably know Sapphire Surprise, the deranged combo pile that united Branded and Tri-Brigade, somehow finding the perfect bridge in Crystal Beasts, and then adding a few other themes. This deck has been a fascinating Yu-Gi-Oh! Puzzle to tinker with over the years. Prop comedy, you never let me down. Yeet! Now Albaz and Ecclesia have received a new round of support that officially turns them into a Synchro and Xyz strategy, and some other stuff. There's no telling what you're about to see when you sit down across from me. All you know is that it's going to involve Sapphire Pegasus. It's been a long journey for me in this deck. If you're interested in the story, like who's been signing these cards, you can catch it in the introductions of the other annual updates and some of my tournament vlogs. For this installment of the Epic Saga, now the Sapphire Surprise style of Branded without the fusion has become officially sanctioned just before the 300th YCS, so I had to go, and I had to sell my firstborn and my dignity to get these. How did it go? Time rules. But I made friends, and isn't that what really matters? This video is longer and denser than last year's guide, which will probably be more entertaining if you're mainly here to watch the funny Yu-Gi-Oh! Guy throw cards around. Never one to be satisfied, I've now crammed 6 themes in here, but why tell you when I could show you? Here's what Crystal Beast Sapphire Pegasus is doing today. Normal summon that to place Rainbow from the deck. Banish that, and you can summon another Sapphire and add Rainbow Dark Dragon to the hand. These can overlay for Springans Merrymaker, sending Springans Kit to the graveyard. You get a free rank up into the champion, who can now search for Tally Ho. Activate that with 2 detachments, and now this can search for another Springans monster and summon 2. This triggers Springans Kit, getting Branded in High Spirits. It does require putting a card back in the deck, but hey, that's what the rest of your opening hand is for. You can activate that High Spirits now or anytime you like. It'll reveal the dragon in hand, send Albion from the extra deck, and search for Fallen of the White Dragon. And during the end phase, that's also going to search for Fallen and Virtuous. Next up, these two can link summon Tri-Brigade Arms Mouser. On summon, Mouser sends 2 Tri-Brigade monsters to the graveyard, and also Tri-Brigade Springans Kit triggers to summon something. This does not target, so if this is Chainlink 1, this is Chainlink 2, Mouser sends these, and then this can summon one of them. I'll summon Fractal, and then Kit will trigger, sending to the graveyard Mercurial. Now that Fractal's on the field, it can banish to cheat out a Link 2, and because Mercurial was banished, that'll search for Blazing Cartesia, or whatever other Albaz friend you want. Next, I'll use Fractal's effect, which sends itself from the hand or field to the graveyard to dump a low-level beast, and that is, of course, Lunalight Silver Hound, which, when it hits the graveyard by an effect, summons Gold Leo, which searches for Yellow Martin and discards it, which triggers Yellow to get Lunalight Masquerade. You saw that coming, right? That Masquerade can send Black Sheep to the graveyard, which triggers Gold's other effect to get it back. You can discard that immediately and get Polymerization. Bounce the Masquerade, and that can summon Yellow Martin back. Oh, I almost skipped a step. Remember to put Masquerade back on the field so that when Polymerization fuses these into Perfume Dancer, you can activate Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2. Perfume Dancer will search for a Lunalight Perfume, and Masquerade will grab back the Polymerization, and if you can discard, this can now fuse from the graveyard this turn. Lunalight Perfume can then discard and get out of here, and then search for a Lunalight monster, which can be summoned from the hand if Perfume Dancer can bounce a Lunalight card. Kaleido Chick's effect will copy this from the extra deck, and you know where this goes, right? Polymerization. Fusing these 2 Lunalights from the graveyard and these 2 from the field, creating Lunalight Liger Dancer, one of the strongest bosses ever printed. This also has put Lunalights in the graveyard. Silver Hound can negate a spell or trap, and this also drains the points of the opponent's monsters. Good for taking out opposing Liger Dancers, that's for sure. But wait, there's still more that we have not used, so Fallen of the White Dragon can send a fusion to summon, and also grab Ecclesia out of the deck. You could stop here, get Fallen in the Virtuous, and then Ecclesia during the opponent's turn makes Fallen of Albaz. You can discard one of these, and fuse with an opposing monster. But this wouldn't be much of a YouTube combo tutorial if I didn't go overkill, so here we go. Way back when we used Tally Ho to detach from the champion, that can also trigger the champion's effect, destroy or bounce any target on the field, returning him to the extra deck and clearing up a zone. Rewinding back to when Perfume Dancer gets the Lunalight Perfume and the Masquerade discards to let Polymerization fuse from the graveyard. If you've got another card you can discard instead of the Perfume, then you can keep the Perfume around. It can summon from the graveyard graveyard, and then you banish it and do the searching, and you get back to this point where a bunch of things are fused together. The thing that's changed is that the black sheep is on the field, so it will hit the graveyard, and then when it hits the graveyard, it adds a Lunalight monster back to the hand. So now in this version of the combo, we are ready to use Fallen of the White Dragon, send Sprin the Iron Dash Dragon. Now we've got space to add Blazing Cartesia to this board, fuse Albaz with Kaleidochick to make this one, Rindbrum the Striking Dragon, which is worth another negate and bounce. Kaleidochick also triggers because it was sent to the graveyard by an effect. You get that polymerization back. Not that the Lunalight detour is mandatory for this, because we do still have a Tri-Brigade up here. Albaz can fuse with that to make Rindbrum. So this is what Crystal Beast Sapphire Pegasus can do now. Did you get all that? It's gonna be on the test. As with all of my guide videos, I will break this down engine by engine. You can see the timestamps below. Their essential cards and combos and the extensions you can add according to your personal playstyle. We are not building just one deck list here. Just take anything that looks interesting to you, throw it all in a big pile together, and see how it plays out. Don't worry about optimizing ratios until you've mastered a deck. One last thing before we dive in, I'm going to be starting a Patreon and channel membership. I've been doing the Yugi tubes for a few years now. It's gotten more demanding and I've been running on empty for a while. I've got a long list of videos to make and I can't do it all alone. Perks will include early uploads, bloopers, custom emojis. We can do signed cards, exclusive videos. The first of those is going to be part 2 of the X-Saber challenge because someone made an illegal move 11 duels in. You can't destroy Pashul in battle.
I can then just summon back the Murakumo and then destroy all
Let's
your monsters.
go, move on to duel number 13.
This is my suffering arc. You're all living in it.
I am deeply grateful to everyone who supports the channel, however you can. With all that said, enjoy the show, and I hope there can be many more like it. So, the Crystal Beast engine. I will admit from the outset that the roll compression of the new Albaz cards has been unbelievable and it all synergizes beautifully, and I'll get to it in the next section. Summon Sapphire Pegasus. Its effect will place Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon from anywhere. That banishes itself to summon another level 4 Crystal Beast and search for an ultimate crystal. Returning viewers will know that this supplies for Tri-Brigade 2 beast materials and a discard. For Springans, it's a rank 4 that becomes, for Branded, High Spirits with a dragon to discard, which also sets up Branded in red. The searchable Crystal Bond can also function like emergency teleport by crystallizing Rainbow from the deck, and then you can get the summon without normal summoning Sapphire. Optional search target Awakening is also another special summon, or it can bridge into Heart, which gives you various bonuses. This could be extended further with a minimal Ruby and Golden Rule package for extra summons. You could, for example, destroy Ruby, search for Golden Rule, and then Golden Rule can place a couple of Crystal Beasts from the deck, summon that Ruby, immediately moving these Crystal Beasts up, placing another Rainbow, and hey look, you've got another Sapphire out of the deal. That being said, all this drama is no longer necessary. The other themes no longer need help bridging into each other, nor do they need the fusion spell that this combo is building up to. Or any fusion spell with how easily they can now spam Albaz and Cartesia. I am obligated to justify my dear Crystal Beasts. That said, if you choose to leave the Crystal Beasts out of your deck, I'll understand. Power creep has been out of control since 22. Not even Golden Rule really stands out anymore. They're not so bad in my build, they can be made worth using. They have better typing than other rank 4 engines, and a few tricks up their sleeves. For example, you can boost consistency and bait negation with Foolish Burial Goods, the main way to dump the Rainbow Bridge of Salvation, for a double search. This does mean you'll need a field spell, ideally 2 in case you draw one of them. Am I the only person who uses New Frontier unironically? I mean, it's a summon and a search. It's even usable turn 1 against stuff like Draco Tail and, Cool Tune. I can't believe how many people don't have too much dignity to play those cards after a name change like that. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to play my favorite deck for hire. Tri-Brigade was the main faction in Sapphire Surprise for a long time. They fill up the graveyard, and then they can cheat out Shurag which, when linked off, can search for a level 4 beast that you'll be able to summon right away, and you've seen what Sapphire can do. Or the level 4 beast it searches for can be Skit, which will also search for high spirits, bridging into your branded stuff. And because Crystal Beasts will search for a rainbow dragon, you'll be able to dump a dragon with high spirits, which at the end phase will grab Branded Red, and this will search for Albion the Shrouded Dragon, which will dump this from the deck and draw a card, so you'll be all set to fusion summon Mirror Jade or even Guardian Chimera on the next turn. They're also great at banishing Mercurier, which searches for a friend of Albaz. However, after the massive roll compression of Fallen of the White Dragon, this three-way combo is no longer necessary. Forget the branded search and the dragon search, all you need is a single Albaz search and you've got everything you need. The extra summons that White gets have also been filling up the zones that Revolt needs to resolve, so gradually the Tri-Brigade toolbox found itself pushed out of my deck. Pack sibling Springans got an Xyz change boss that turned them into an unrivaled summon spam engine. Tri's final boss was something you could send off Nadir Servant? Clearly, Konami is still scarred from that brief moment when Tri was popular. Remember how Black Wings had a successful first run, but then everything after that was just 300 rectangles of garbage? Tri-Brigade. They don't like birds. Or is it garbage? I guess I can't hype up this reveal too much since you already saw in the intro that I found a way to turn this Link 2 into a Liger Dancer. How? Why? Why? All will be explained. This is a long video. The Tri-Brigade's new purpose is to spam a fourth version of Kit. You can run, but you can't hide. All will become catgirls. As one of Albaz's friends, you can move this around with the usual searchers. It's an easy extender for Xyz and Link summoning, and when it hits the graveyard by any means, including being sent from the deck by Quem or Merrymaker, it triggers to revive just about anything. That can even include any of Albaz's fusions, as long as it was properly summoned first. You can discard Tri-Brigade Kit to get Springans Kit, and then Tri-Brigade Springans Kit. I'm just gonna call it Tisk. Kit, Skit, Tisk. Got it? Springans are highly spammable, and Tisk extends this to practically everyone else. The applications are endless. On the Tri-Brigade side, Fractal is now a one-card setup for no normal summon. Send Kit, send Tisk. Tisk revives either of these, banish the other two, and go off wherever you like. I can't spend an hour walking through every branching play here. The focus today is on small engines, so I'll give you just a couple of ideas. Use Fractal's Tri-Effect to cheat out double Dragon Lords. You now have a quick bounce, or the opponent has spent some negation. Either way, proceed to use Fractal as material for a Springans play. If you have more beasts in grave, this could be a Shureg, and you could either link that off to trigger a beast search, and that could be Springans Kit or Sapphire Pegasus, or you could just keep it around. Remember that Shureg's effect to banish can also be triggered by other beasts being summoned. That includes discarding Skit or using the Ecclesia Synchro to summon other things. Even a Courier for negation on top of all that. Running up to 3 copies of Tenki will increase the likelihood that you see the best Tri-Brigade card, plus you can bounce it with Champion Sargus. Foolish Burial's also got a lot to do here. Using Rainbow Bridge and Foolish Burial goods will make the Crystal Beast more consistent, and for Branded, it's high spirits. Something I've struggled with is that each engine has that minimum number of cards needed to make it work, and then I can start increasing the payoffs and diluting the bricks. But running more engines means having less space for those consistency cards and the things necessary to play the game these days. There's no one right answer for the perfect ratio. There are wrong answers. Go with your gut. Run what you can fit. As a wise man once said, one of the reasons why I don't give specific deck lists is because I want you to play with the cards that you like. In my most popular video, I talked about how I don't want you to think that my list is solved even though I created this monstrosity. I also don't want you to pick it up, botch a couple of hands, and conclude that the deck is bad. We're not going to find anything new if we all play the same cards. If you want to take the Tri-Brigade engine further, particularly if you were using other beasts in your deck, I found a way to make this work. Tri-Brigade Arms Mouser is one of the most wildly busted cards you've ever read. Oh wait, this is not the usual Tri-Lock that restricts Link materials. It locks all extra deck summons. If you use Mouser as a double Foolish Burial, then for the rest of the turn, the Tri-Brigade can't summon anything more defensive than double Dragon Lords. Springans are gone, the Branded gang loses Ecclesia Black, and every fusion except for Rinbrum and Devours. You can't Synchro summon after using Mouser, but you also can't Link summon Mouser Mouser after using white to summon Ecclesia and get to black. There's no compatibility here, but don't be discouraged, there are still some specific plays we can do. Besides, I was already in the market for something to do with 2 beast materials. That way I wouldn't be out of options if Merrymaker gets stopped, or if I didn't have 2 level 4s to begin with. So here's what happens when you link summon Mouser. Send Kit and other Kit, which will have this send Courier, and this revives her. Use the Tri-Brigade effect to get a link 2, and banishing Courier will search for Fallen of the White Dragon. You can use this effect from the hand, sending Albion to summon himself. This will get Fallen in the Virtuous for later, and for now, Ecclesia. This is actually a decent end board, as much as it wounds the combo goblin in me to see so much material left untapped. You've got 1, 2, 3 hits, plus a 4th if you pay DDL's cost by sending Mouser, her effect will trigger to flip something down. Or if you send Kit, then she will send Nerval and search you another Courier, which is going to be negation after Albaz fuses. Or if, let's say, the opponent attacks over Ecclesia, you can have that send Tisk instead and bring her back. Either way, the other of these will trigger when it's probably destroyed in battle. This is a lot of value and follow-up for a link too. If the opponent has cards in play that you don't like, you can bounce one of them with DDL, then maybe you can link up into Shureg to banish one and flip the other down. And rather than sitting on Ecclesia this time, let's tag out for Classic Fallen. You are locked into beasts and locked into level 8 fusions, but look, Albaz still has a very nice option to fuse into. This takes out 5 opposing cards, so despite the strict limitations, Mouser can be good, and you don't even need a big Tri-Brigade package for it. Follow your dreams, kids. If there's an interesting card that you're struggling with, just sit down and workshop some plays until you figure something out. And that said, you have not seen what Mouser is capable of. You are not ready yet. Unless you saw the example turn in the intro, but you probably blacked out and don't remember what year it is, so we'll come back to Mouser later. It's time to go in depth with those new branded cards that everything's bridging into, and for that, we will need a proper presentation. This branded mat from LBD Duel. It's a branded brand deal. They do more than Mimigools. If you'd like to treat your favorite decks to some new mats, sleeves, and boxes, I got you a discount code. I can personally vouch that this stuff holds up quite nicely. Thanks LDB Duel for sponsoring this madness. Fallen of the White Dragon is one of the best cards you could ever draw. The level 8 lock doesn't apply until after using his self-summoning effect, so it's an easy play to slap down after you've burned through everything else. Same goes for the high spirits that easily searches for him, while also triggering a discard cost and dumping a fusion that'll trigger later. You can also just normal summon him and avoid the lock. Oh look, a level 4 tour guide, but you'll want to use the self-summon, because in typical Yu-Gi-Oh fashion, the cost is actually another bonus. Any deck that can run white and FV, I'm gonna say probably should. So you play the new Albaz, he gets Ecclesia, and then they synchro summon Ecclesia and the Black Dragon. The synchro Ecclesia recruits a friend every turn on yours and the opponent's, any of these fun fellas, from the deck or graveyard, but only during the main phase and only if she can banish on resolution, so keep those weaknesses in mind. You can use this to drop Albaz as an interruption, or add one of these to your end board. Or how about you summon Quem, dump Skit, maybe you can revive Albaz, fuse with something, and then that'll trigger Quem to revive something else from the graveyard. Easy way to trigger a chain of summons. It's also much easier to dump Rinbrum now, which can revive Albaz at any point during the opponent's turn. With all this expanded access to Albaz and Ecclesia, there's really no need for the fusion support from Branded in Red, and therefore Albion the Shrouded Dragon. Which is inconceivable because this strategy was built around using high spirits with a dragon to set up these fusion summons. But now this core combo is gone, and the rest of the deck is stronger, including Branded and high spirits itself. Like I said, crazy roll compression with these two. Keep in mind also that White, FV, and even Grand Guignol can send Ecclesia to the graveyard, triggering her effect in the graveyard. She can return herself and a level 8 fusion from the graveyard, or maybe if this is banished, it can also return that and shuffle a card on the field back into the deck, even face down. But high spirits can only send fusions, so it will not dump Ecclesia. If that's not enough recycling for you, then the Dragon that Devours the Dogma is a beautiful card for combo trash like us, always dreaming of an infinite deck. A key interaction here is that Incredible Ecclesia and the standard Albaz fusions that can summon him can only summon him from the deck. So if you've pulled him out of there, you can use Devour to send him back, and you know, whatever else, or hit something from the opponent's graveyard or banishment. These two will make sure that Mirror Jade never runs out of fusions to send. Although, hey, there are also times when you want Albaz to be in the graveyard, so With enough practice, you will get better at keeping him where he's needed. By the way, you can only have 3 total Harpy Ladies in your deck. The ideal ratio is obviously going to be 2 whites and 1 fallen, but that may not be financially viable for most people, including me. But I had to. I'm the Sapphire Surprise guy. That said, practicing with a second Fallen may help you to learn the deck better. That's why I say don't obsess over ratios. The best ratios in competition are not always necessarily the best for learning the deck. Let's make sure you know the tricks for the Fallen and the Virtuous. People are splashing this into any deck with space for it. Send Albion to destroy any face-up card, making this a flexible out to floodgates, and at the end phase, Albion gets a fresh Fallen and Virtuous from the deck. You can later send the new Ecclesia Synchro, and then from the graveyard this can reload what you've sent and shuffle another card on the field, even a face down one. Devours can also search for this, but not set it. This does count as a Dogmatika card. There is a very specific use for this. Early in the turn, you will probably be using one of these to dump Albion and get your FV at the end phase. But if you anticipate that you'll want to activate it during your turn and still have it for the next turn, then instead you send Devours. So at the end phase, you'll get this in hand, activate it by sending Albion, destroy something, then Albion triggers getting you the other one, all in the same turn. If you don't have additional copies because it's limited or you've stuffed your deck with just that many engines, you can recover it by summoning Springans Kit or using Dogmatika Lawbringer, but more on her later. If you're desperate enough, you can also use this to avoid targeted negation on your own monster. And don't forget that with an Ecclesia monster in circulation, this is also a quick monster reborn. Oh boy, do we have quite a few monsters who would love to be revived and avoid being called by the grave. This is one reason why you may sometimes want to decline Incredible Ecclesia's effect that puts her back in your hand at the end phase. Sometimes you'll need her in the graveyard for this stuff. Now it's time to check in on the Golden Swordsoul, the best Swordsoul card! I've been saying it all along, and finally the people are listening. I don't need to explain to you what this does. Everybody knows what the Golden Swordsoul does. This is the most powerful Swordsoul card, and I'm gonna prove it to you. The gayest Swordsoul card, and therefore the best. Rather than going directly for your Synchro summon, how about this? After Albaz summons the girlfriend summons the boyfriends. Now, when a monster is banished, such as when you use Ecclesia and the Black Dragon's effect, you can also banish the Golden Swordsoul to revive, at minimum, the Incredible Ecclesia who summoned it. Now she's ready to drop Albaz on the opponent's turn. Or maybe you'd like to have some fun here. Let's say that the Synchro that you used is summoning Quem. Quem's gonna dump Tisk, and then that will revive Fallen of the White Dragon. Synchro summon again for the upcoming The 3 Brave Swordsouls. Apparently I've been procrastinating this video for so f***ing long that this card has now actually been released. It's now called The 3 Champions of Swordsoul, and it is pretty darn beautiful. And it's only a super, so very easy to get. You have no excuse not to get it. This searches for Cartesia, and also summoning this triggers Guiding Quem, which will revive again from the graveyard. From here you can go to your next favorite level 8 Synchro, or just fuse into Mirror Jade, Devours, Why Is This Legal, or Grand Guignol, which can then go into whatever freaky bestial situation you want to get up to. I'm not judging. Well, I am a little bit. Another thing you can do is, instead of searching for Cartesia, you search for Dogmatika Lawbringer, and those can overlay for Sargus. Being a generic rank 8 sometimes matters, and if you summon Fallen by sending Albaz the Branded Dragon, that is going to get you the Fallen and the Virtuous at the end phase. Use it during the opponent's turn, and then when this is detached or this gets sent to the graveyard, Lawbreaker's going to trigger to get Fallen and the Virtuous back. Definitely try this card. It's fun if you can make it work. Throughout all of this, don't forget that the boyfriends can negate an attack, and possibly destroy, which thwarts opponents who end their main phase early, thinking that they can attack over Incredible Ecclesia, because she can't activate during the battle phase, and that is a way to potentially take her out before summoning something that Albaz can fuse with. So I guess it probably wouldn't be Blue Eyes White Dragon that we're hypothetically attacking with. More realistically, you're probably under attack by Gaga Gigo. Long story short, gay rights. Now it's time for some gay wrongs. White locks you into level 8 synchros. So let's see, if you do this, do this as we rehearsed, and that's going to summon this back, and then this summons this, and then we go here, and we get some revival, like this, and oh, wait a second, look at that. Some level 6 or higher light or dark spellcasters, and 2 level 8 fusion monsters. Why did you do this, Konami? Don't do this, Konami. There was no need to do this. We've already done this once. Now it's in Duel Links. Yeah, sorry to break it to you, but Dragoon's in Duel Links. And yeah, of course it has a skill that lets you summon it for free. Ah! Dogmatika is also a thing. This crosses over with the Albaz friends, Branded, light spellcasters with equal attack and defense. As a self-summoning level 4 tuner, Cartesia can also make any color of extra deck summon that you need. Even if I don't need her for my main plays, her reusable fusing has a huge impact anytime I don't go first and finish my entire main play. Putting her Gronguinol in the extra deck also allows you to activate High Spirits with spellcaster discards. More versatility is always appreciated. Gronguinol can also later banish to summon a saint, which is most of them, just not the boys. But they're my saints. Mwah, mwah. You may want to run a second Quem if you find yourself summoning her often off of Gung-Ho Springans. Even with just a single Quem, you can try to reload that into the deck using Devours, along with making sure that you return Fallen of Albaz to the deck so he can be summoned off of stuff like Incredible Ecclesia. By the way, we have a new low-commitment Dogmatika Saint compatible with Branded Shenanigans, the Lawbringer. Easy level 8 summon with good stats, which after hitting the graveyard by any means, Destruction, Material, Foolish Burial, recovers any Dogmatika card. That could be Quem or the Fallen in the Virtuous, which counts as a Dogmatika card, so you get that right back. He also lets you dump something out of the extra deck if you anticipate that the opponent won't benefit from doing the same. Oh, and Lawbringer can also be revived by the Golden Swordsoul, as if the Golden Swordsoul needed to get even better! In the Branded section, I mentioned some tricks you can do with the 3 Brave Swordsouls. I thought this would join Lawbringer in Maze of Muertos, but I guess not. Totally fine card if you want to lean into the Dogmatikas and other war crimes. Don't do this, Konami! Here's a quick focus on the Springans play that keeps coming up. 2 level 4s make Merry, which then sends a Springans from the deck to the graveyard, probably Skit or Tisk. Free rank up to the champion, who searches for a Springans card. Tally-Ho searches, and can turn any Xyz materials into summons. That can also include Merrymaker if you want. And then, because you've summoned Skit, you get Branded in High Spirits, which is going to be worth a discard and a search for Albaz. Or, if you don't need these, you can also search for Fallen and Virtuous. Skit can also get this from the graveyard, or hey, even banishment. On top of this Branded search, you've also got a Tisk trigger at some point when this hits the graveyard, and you are right back to where you started with 2 materials for another rank 4 or link 2. This is actually better because now your level 4s are beasts, whereas otherwise maybe you started with something else that couldn't go into Tri-Brigade plays. I won't reiterate all the branching possibilities. If you want to go deeper, check out the Springans sections of my previous guides. New to this year is Gung-Ho Springans, a themed rank 4 that adds or summons any Albaz friend or Therion King Regulus. More on this later. And then after doing that, you've no doubt seen Springans players overlay these into F0. Not that this completely invalidates the cute things I used to do with Force Strix searching for couriers. Gung-Ho can only be made by Springans monsters, not even Albaz and his friends. So this doesn't replace Merrymaker as a starter. Although if you can start with Gung-Ho, yes, this can then rank up into champion. You know, get your second Therion. It's all combo slop from here. This can branch into pretty much anything in Yu-Gi-Oh! But does it really matter when they're all just varying levels of overkill? You could keep it simple with something like using Gung-Ho to summon Quem. That triggers Tisk to bring something back, and these will make the Ecclesia Synchro. And you've also got whatever Quem wants to dump. Then overlay these to get some negation. Or skip the Quem stuff, just have Gung-Ho play Regulus. From Branded in High Spirits, you'll have Albaz. He can Synchro summon, and he will send Albion, which will get you... Where's Albion? Where did I throw this? And Albaz is sending Albion, so you will have Fallen and Virtuous. I don't use F0 because it's too much space out of my brutally tight extra deck. I figure SP Little Knight is good enough and more applicable. Whatever you do, just, try to keep it simple. If you try to have too much fun in Yu-Gi-Oh!, you get a double loss. I actually don't run this in my current build because I don't have space for anything, and I found that what I was running instead was usually better, but we're not ready for that yet, so we'll come back to that. be patient. Lastly, do consider Final Battle at Golconda. Its reusable protection can flip games, plus you get to dump fusions and summon Springans from the deck. Consider the following. If you trigger the protection effect, that sends a fusion to the graveyard. Because you've sent a fusion to the graveyard, you can now add all these back to your hand, and if it's Sprint, that can summon Albaz from the deck. You've got an easy discard to fuse with the opponent. Decisive Battle can also summon a Springans from the deck, maybe Rocky, that adds a Tri-Springans kit back to your hand. Instead of discarding this, you discard the kit, and maybe you revive something else off of that. And then on your turn, you've got materials. And by the way, if Quem ever finds herself without something urgent to send to the graveyard, she can send Decisive Battle. Then, if you summon Rocky later, it'll recover that spell. There are some real wacky synergies here to play with. Cramming Therion in here and without Gung Ho may seem like a bit of a meme pick, but I assure you it's not. I'm still gonna throw this anyway. In case you haven't heard, Therion King Regulus is a boss that summons itself if you simply have a machine engrave, and sacrifices itself to negate anything. Their field spell searches for this, and this is important, can also recover a Therion if a monster is destroyed in battle. Very oppressive in a grind. Point 1. Therions are supported by Springans cards. If you don't need to search for Tally-Ho, or maybe you don't need to go through the whole Springans play because you already have white or high spirits, then Champion Sargus can instead search for King Regulus, or better, take a detour through the field spell that searches for and recovers Therions. An easy way to enable the King's summon is that when you go through Merrymaker, have it dump Rocky. This will get protection before you move on with your turn. Or as you saw, you could go through the Springans play as usual, extend it with Gung Ho, and summon King after that. It's more of a risk the longer you wait for protection, but this play yields a bigger reward. It may seem absurd to be running Regulus with only one machine in the deck, but keep in mind that you've also got a very dumpable machine in your extra deck, and if you ask my exes, a very dumpable twink on your screen. That's fine, it's their loss, they could have been dating a Yugi tuber. Sprind the Iron Dash Dragon is not the best fusion, but it's the easiest for Albaz to make, which catches opponents off guard. And they have to deal with it, or its effect can move and destroy a column. Plus it's helping the rest of the deck to run more smoothly. You should pack at least one of the basic Albaz fusions, because only these have the ability to summon him from the deck during the end phase. There was a time when I wasn't running any, and I really missed being able to do that. We've also got some smaller Therion synergies. Merrymaker dumps Rocky as the machine that will eventually enable the King's summon. Later, if anything gets detached, the champion can destroy or bounce any target on the field. The King doesn't care about what happens to the monster he equips. His wealth has insulated him from the consequences of his policies, and you should not vote for anyone who enables him. If the Therion uses Sprind as its mechanical shell, then when he tributes to negate something, this sends this Albaz fusion to the graveyard, letting you trigger it anew at the end phase. And if you've got any of these in your graveyard, you're also cleared to return them as well. If the King blocks a rock on your turn, then at the end phase, you can get Fallen in the Virtuous and play it right away to revive him. That's right, you can rock block them and still have protection ready for next time. And despite being a big monster with a self-summoning effect, Regulus is also a regular monster. No summoning restrictions, so you can do this. If this Xyz guy is getting negated, then I'm gonna have to do something that you've never done, Mr. Akaba.
And what's that?
Academy, we tribute summon.
Tribute
Therion
summon?
King Regulus.
Therion King Regulus. That is definitely a Crystal Beast card, Mr. Anderson.
Tribute summoning Regulus can also be a way of getting these off the field, so you can use Ecclesia's graveyard effect, or summon this back to get its returning effect again. All of this is to say, I put this in my deck because I needed good field spells to justify the Crystal Beast, and hey, this one's in the lore, and it actually works quite nice even without Gung Ho. Pleasantly surprised. I mean, all according to Keikaku. Keikaku means plan. This is the final engine. And for some of my friends, it was the final straw and we don't talk as much anymore. But it worked, Sean! I got a lot of wins off of this! I have played enough agonizing matches against Joe's Lunalights to notice that he was making a lot of rank 4s with them. So I thought, could I make rank 4s with them? Apparently this was enough to ruin our friendship. He said, fine, just take them, gave me his best cards and stormed off, and I haven't seen him since, but we're fine. So here's how it started. Hear me out. Lunalight has always been on my radar as a way to unbrick Salvation. If you draw Goods and Salvation together, hey, Goods can still send something else from the deck with a graveyard effect and a discard cost. Unfortunately, every spell or trap with a graveyard effect that can move a card out of the hand is either useless if if drawn itself, or a searcher that would require a bigger investment to get any use out of. People called me crazy for putting this in Crystal Beast, but I don't have space for Revolution Synchron here anyway. Lunalight Perfume is probably the next best thing. So you use goods to send this, banish this, to discard, search for a Lunalight, now you got your double search. The Lunalight, I figured, didn't really matter. This is kind of the closest thing to a goods target that can still be useful if drawn, although you'd have to get a Lunalight in the graveyard by some other means. But then, hey, you could then continue to the graveyard effect that discards the Salvation. But how are you getting this in the first place? Before they had fusions worth summoning, Lunalight was a material engine for Orcust. But I'm not doing any bouncy pendulum exploits. I'm making rank 4s in several different ways. No one route is really representative of what this engine does, so forgive me for being abstract here. The shortest route is for Masquerade to send Yellow Martin, then Yellow bounces it for a quick level 4 Beast Extender. Sending Yellow to the graveyard by an effect is also an opportunity to trigger its effect to search for Serenade Dance. This is like Perfume, a discard outlet that summons instead of searches. It's much stronger than Perfume and usually better, but it's a useless draw instead of a usually useless draw. You can also send Yellow by summoning Gold Leo. It searches and then discards. In that case, Yellow Martin can search for Masquerade and then bounce that to summon itself. You can get bolder with Silverhound. Dump that instead of Yellow and it'll trigger to summon Gold from the deck, and then Gold can search and discard Yellow. You can get that if you want. Bounce this, summon, and now you've got your 2 materials without a normal summon. But it's not that simple, because the monster summoned by Silverhound will lock you into Lunalight fusions. You have to get it off the field. Which means actually, Yellow Martin cannot simply bounce the Masquerade. It has to unsummon the Gold Leo, and then you have to normal summon that. You can also do most of this stuff with Kaleido Chick instead of Gold. She sends for cost, so this can't be negated, but won't get the send triggers off of Yellow and Silver. This could be better if, say for example, you were doing a short play off of Silverhound and you can't afford this getting negated. So basically, even though sending Silverhound gets you an extra body, you also have to waste Yellow's summon getting that body off the field. But hey, you can also just keep that bounced monster in hand and you have a nice discard. This is really open-ended stuff, and even if it gets interrupted, I usually still get some resources moved around. If you draw Tenki but you've already got Fractal, the Lunalights are also Beast Warriors to search for. Fractal is popular in Lunalights for sending silver, so you furries already knew about this synergy. I didn't know though, because I'm not a fur. Hey, get out of here, scram! Who put all these furry cards in my collection? I've never seen them before, I don't even... Another fun way to trigger the many Lunalight graveyard effects is by fusing them with Cartesia to make Grand Guignol. But wait, there's more. As a payoff, silver provides negation if you've got a Lunalight fusion in the graveyard. But what kind of effect could easily send both silver and a Lunalight fusion to the graveyard? Oh look, a level 8 Lunalight fusion monster with 2,500 attack or defense. Branded in High Spirits now produces 2 top-tier starters plus negation for no normal summons. I cannot understate, that's a big deal. But you know me, that wasn't enough. I wanted my rank 4s without a normal summon, without being lucky enough to draw one of these starter spells. So I spent some time in the kitchen again. Oh, that's just me on Blue Sky gushing about my other hobbies to prove that I do think about non-Yu-Gi-Oh things sometimes. Oh no, Yu-Gi-Oh is invading my other hobbies. I found that if you want Lunalights to reach rank 4 off of just something like Foolish Burial, you need a bigger package. Which I have, obviously. I have a huge deck. I have to use both hands. Most boxes can't take it. Black Sheep, Polymerization, Perfume Dancer, and Perfume Proper. So you'd start by sending Silverhound, triggering its effect to get Gold. Gold searches and dumps Yellow. Yellow searches for Masquerade. Masquerade dumps Black Sheep, triggering Gold Leo's other effect, which can add a sent Lunalight back to the hand. Discard Black Sheep to have it search for Polymerization. Bounce the Masquerade. You're locked into Lunalight fusions, but in this case you have one. That'll make Perfume Dancer, which will search for Perfume. You can use the Perfume to revive. And then from the graveyard, you can banish it to discard something else from your hand, search for Kaleido Chick, activate the Masquerade, bounce it. This can special summon a Lunalight from the hand. Now you have your rank 4 and half of an SP Little Knight. But then I figured, if I'm going this far, I could make rank 4 and half an SP, or I could commit just 2 more fusions to the extra deck and bam, it's a Liger Dancer, one of the strongest bosses in Yu-Gi-Oh history. So the way that works is you start with the same stuff, you go from this to this and this and this, you get to this, you bounce this, you got that, You use Polymerization. Then Masquerade, in response to the fusion, can add Polymerization back to the hand, and if you can discard, you can now have this fuse from the graveyard. So resolve Perfume Dancer first, so you search for Perfume and immediately discard that. Discard any other card from the hand, now you get Kaleidochick. Bounce this, summon Kaleidochick, it copies something from the extra deck, Polymerization, so you can now fuse Leo Dancer from the field with this from the field, these two from the graveyard, and you've got your Liger Dancer and a fusion in the graveyard for negation. Minimal material engine, Liger extension. Joe is furious that I kept saying Liger Dancer is an engine, not a deck. It's an engine. In fact, well, you probably saw at the start of the video, I can make Liger Dancer off nothing but a Tri-Brigade Link 2. No normal summon, no locks. Play out your turn, force out the opponent's disruption, then cash in a couple of beasts, and it's over. This is also my counterplay to Charms. They're gonna take a few draws, but it doesn't matter if your deck can't out Liger Dancer. It even works against X-Sabers.
Here go!
Yes! Fua!
Oh, what am I scared of? It's X-Sabers. He could draw his entire. He could draw a sandwich. Doesn't matter.
You are really going for the Charmy challenge.
Yeah, I don't really care.
Lastly, this adds a bunch of different dark monsters to the deck, which means I am probably the only person who has ever won a duel at a YCS by attacking with Rainbow Dark Dragon. It's just a thing that can happen. I'm just saying it can happen, and it has. Once the opponent has seen that I'm running Liger Dancer, it scares the shit out of them, and they will devote every resource they have to preventing me from summoning it. They will hold every counter they can, which is half the reason why I'll often side out the entire Lunalight package to make space for my own counters. My opponents have dropped some very confused ghost cherries on me. Making space for the Liger extension did kick Gung-Ho out of my extra deck, but I found I wasn't going for it anyway if I could be dropping a Liger Dancer. I also had to remove Shureg from my Tri-Brigade deck, which is not ideal, but hey, if I'm not summoning one thing, I'm getting another. I also had to remove SP. I put it in my friggin' side deck because I am the whole circus. Now, this is just one example of a Sapphire Surprise extra deck. Yours may look very different depending on which engines you try to prioritize. Submit your best jokes about things that are tighter than Mark's extra deck. Best comment wins a smooch. Anyway, that Liger is this easy to splash is probably going to be news to most duelists, so if you want to build Branded Lunalight or Tri-Brigade Lunalight or any combination of them, please do it. Help me get this thing banned. Joe has started talking to me again. Between Charmies and the increasing number of double searchers, it's become more important to cram in as many Ash Blossoms as possible. Being able to fit a ton of Charmies is crucial too. These factors have imposed an inherent disadvantage on larger decks when many duels come down to whether you drew the out that lets you play Yu-Gi-Oh! Maxi! What are you doing in there, Maxi? Get out of there, go die in the fire. Liger Dancer's been my main out. If you can fit Baguska, that's also a good way to end your turn early. But man, I tell the OCG people this is not ban-worthy. Now that everybody has Forbidden Droplet in the new legendary modern decks, buy them today. Sorry, I still have trauma from X-Sabers. I can't even throw my cards anymore. My previous version of Sapphire Surprise was using Horus, which also brings a field spell and some negation, though this has fallen out of style because of Charmies and those stupid sexy mystical space typhoon people. But they're cheap now, so if you've ever been interested, it's a great engine to have in your collection. As with any deck, this also works with Diabellstar, the Seeker of Sinful Spoilers. What's that? Volo from Pokemon Legends wants to take my... I'm gonna stop you right there. Access granted. A specific application is that this can unbrick Salvation even without drawing the Black Witch. Use goods to dump Curse of Diabell to add Philia Diabell to add the White Witch, who can discard Salvation to summon. Then she can also dump something else, maybe the Sinful Spoils of Slumber for a flip as defense. Oh, and I just remembered that grass isn't forbidden anymore. I got it out for this video, but for some reason I don't know where it ended up. I sure could've used this at the YCS to trigger a bunch of Lunalight effects. Oh well. You can take the branded stuff as far as your heart desires. Retribution can recycle Fallen and Virtuous from the graveyard, and can also help provide some defense. I've been trying to use Albaz the Ashen to help attack over Liger Dancer as an alternative to fusing up to Titaniclad. That's all I've got for the miscellaneous section this time. The cards I've been testing have been more in-theme, and with their smooth synergy and roll compression, I haven't been left wanting. These are currently among the strongest cards ever printed. The toughest part for me has been trying to fit in more engines while still having having space for consistency, payoffs, and staples. And really trying to make the deck as wacky and dramatic as possible. Sapphire Surprise has always been about having fun and making a statement. It's what happened when I realized that winning wasn't making me happy. I needed to win while putting on a good show and, of course, making friends. Wow, you're a real one if you made it all the way to the outro. I'm sorry that this video was 2 months delayed. These guides are a huge labor of love, and after running on empty for so long, I finally hit a breaking point. I stepped back to focus on making some big changes for my health. One of those has been to actually allow myself to get some compensation for the work I do, so I've committed to a Patreon and a YouTube channel membership for those who want to support my endeavors here. We built a lot of decks today, so over there I'll put up some lists for various builds I've used. And thanks again to LBD Duel for sending along some high quality gear to spice up the presentation. Don't forget about the discount code to get 15% off whatever mat sleeves and deck boxes you've been eyeing. Next up, I've got a couple of Mimighoul videos to get out, vanilla duels, and some different Yu-Gi-Oh videos. Stay tuned for that. We'll see how much I can get through. But first, I'm gonna lay down because this took 6 hours to record. Just kidding, I can't lay down. There's so much to do. There's like so much to do in life, and also like a bazillion Yu-Gi-Oh cards being released every month now.